It's Tara. Today I'm talking about guilt and shame. Kind of like depression and anxiety, these two emotions and these two states are thrown around together. They do hold hands, they show up at the same times, they're very predictable in a lot of ways, but we tend to let them run unchecked. And so I kind of refer to them as thieves in the night that are plotting this sinister attack to steal from you your future, your joy, the things that you're ambitious about, the things that you want, the breakthroughs that you're looking for, because that's typically when they show up. So one of the ways to look at this is that guilt and shame are really emotions from past experiences. Typically, this isn't happening on a regular basis as a pattern of behavior just because of one instance. But realize that these are things that have happened in the past that are continuing to come back at you. And so it's kind of like bullying, but it's not somebody else that's trying to make you feel bad about yourself. It's self-bullying. It's coming from within, where on some level you feel like you deserve to be punished for mistakes that you've made or previous experiences. Like depression and anxiety, guilt and shame are normal human emotions. They come from having a conscience, from this compass that we have as to right or wrong, from the humanity of feeling bad when we've made mistakes. But we have all made mistakes, and the last thing we want is somebody to rub our noses in it every time to remind us that we've been crappy at some point in our life. We want to learn from those mistakes, but you will not advance in your life if you are punishing yourself. It doesn't make you better. There is this false idea that if we punish ourselves, if we do our own time by being mean to ourselves in this way and bullying ourselves with repeated guilt and shame, that somehow it will make things right or it will make up for what we've done, and it doesn't. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, and there needs to be forgiveness. There is often forgiveness from other people. It's a harder thing to forgive ourselves. So the self-forgiveness is really a big piece of guilt and shame. You need to do some professional work with someone that deals with this neurobiologically so that you can start working these things out. Because a lot of guilt and shame comes from earlier childhood experiences. So it's more than just cognitive work like we're talking about here, more than just changing the way that you're thinking. You really want to do some work to repair some of those developmental ruptures, if there are some, and start addressing some of the things or traumatic experiences or overwhelming events that you've experienced in session. If you have a healthy nervous system and you're just dealing with some guilt and shame that's coming up, look at reframing it. Where does it come from? Is it in this moment? If you've done something in this moment that you feel guilty about, that you feel ashamed about, then immediately take action to make some amends. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be pleasant, but you need to force yourself through that to make this experience as right as you can so that you can leave it behind. If we handle it properly, it's much harder for it to come back and get us. So the first thing is to really look at when it's happening, in this moment or in the past. If it happened in the past, there's nothing that you can do to change it. If you need to make apologies, go make things right in your life, but then do the work to make things right within yourself, because that's the hardest part. Notice patterns. When does guilt and shame typically come up for you? Because for a lot of people, it will come up right after a personal breakthrough. It will come up right when they've made a whole bunch of progress in their life. Sometimes it happens when they're alone or when they're particularly vulnerable. So you want to look at the patterns, because if you know predictably for you when guilt and shame tend to come up, you can start arming yourself against the attack. You can take the power away from those emotions by being ready for them. When they show up, you call them out, you call them what they are, you know why they're there, and then you release them. You find a way to reject them. And in fact, if you've done the work that you need to on your self-worth and your value, you will become hostile. You'll start getting ticked off that these emotions continue to come up in your life to steal from you what you're trying to gain, to rob you of the joy that you deserve in your life. When you really believe that you deserve to live a life that's full and joyful and abundant, then you start getting ticked at these things, because how dare they come from the past to try and steal what you're working so hard towards. So be defensive of yourself. Be defensive of yourself the way you would of a child that's being bullied, because that's really what this is about. So check your experiences. Realize that you can't change the past, and wallowing in it and staying there and being stuck by it is not going to make you better, and it's not going to absolve you of the guilt and shame. What you need to do is find therapeutic ways to release it, to start taking your thoughts and those emotions hostage instead of letting them take hostage of you, and have some control. Start mastering your mindset so that you can come at these things from a place of empowerment and a boldness that says, I'm no longer allowing this pattern to come into my life. Yeah, there it is. I can recognize it, but I'm not allowing it to seep in and steal what I'm working so hard towards. So start reframing your experiences, rewriting your history in a more favorable way, thinking about how you would have handled it, what you learned from it, what was the best part of it, how could things have been better. Start living in that way. Start living in a better way that has authenticity and integrity. You will minimize those experiences. The ones where you have screwed up, we've all screwed up. So forgive yourself so you can move on, because what you really need is to not be stuck in that place, but to be able to move on from it. So I challenge you to really go after your thoughts. Be fierce about protecting your sense of self and your self-worth and the things that you want in your life, because nobody's going to want it more for you. Nobody's going to go get it for you or tell you you deserve it more or forgive you more. That's going to make a difference than you. This is the work that you need to do above all else. Do make things right with people. Make things right with yourself. Do this work for yourself. And I hope you're well. Till next time.